All right, welcome back to another episode of Long Time Good Time. I'm your host Terry, and my co-host is my best friend Abrisha, and together we are a long time and a good time. We'll get into the backstory and all those different things over some time, but we're gonna dive right into it because we got a lot of good conversation to have. So we're going to start first. We're going to jump on the love train and go to our topic. Cardi B announces her pregnancy with Stefon Diggs, wide receiver of the Houston Texans, now in the NFL. And there was basically some people and individuals that talked about, hey, he's got some other people pregnant right now. And so there became a whole lot of conversation about her getting pregnant while still technically married to one of the Migos, and then also talking about how she kind of left her previous husband to be with Diggs, and he's just as toxic or just as unfaithful. So a lot of conversation happening, and thinking about relationships in general, the thought about having a relationship with somebody that has kids when you don't, or when you have kids and they also have kids, blended families, all those different things. So there's a lot of different ways to take this. So Abrisha, let me just start off. What are your thoughts about what you heard with Cardi B and her response, which I didn't touch on, but she essentially said, hey, we're gonna figure it out, we all family now?
Yeah. Let me just start by saying this. I love Cardi B, and I also understand that I don't have to live my life in the limelight. There are not cameras following me around everywhere I go, and the whole world doesn't have to see every decision that I make. That being said, I am on the train of my good sis. If you're going to leave one man for one thing, at least let the next have better character. Is this guy not worse than Offset? I don't. So me personally, I don't understand the decision behind getting with somebody who's so close to what you said you were running away from. Now, also, I can acknowledge that this might have just been a fling that happened to be a sharpshooter who happened to get you pregnant, and now you got to make the best of it. So, I don't know if she's leading her conversation with them being in a relationship and boyfriend and girlfriend because she wants to soften the fact that it was a fling. I don't know, but yeah, the brother got two other women pregnant right now. I don't know, excuse me, pardon. I believe they've had the babies. They both had girls, if I'm not mistaken. And you're just, you're coming right behind that. You couldn't pay me. I can't do it.
Yeah. So, as previously mentioned, and hopefully we'll mention more times, we all about doing our research and everything. So I saw the general discussion, had to look up a little bit, and so Cardi has said, during this short-term relationship so far, she has talked about the trauma, and I'm glad you said Offset because I could not remember the name. I didn't want to say the wrong name because I know one of the Migos passed, but she has mentioned the trauma with Offset and talked about basically comparing Offset and Stefon Diggs. I'm a big football fan, but as far as Diggs as I don't know him. I don't know anything about his personal life, so I got no comment on that. But she made it seem like to people who didn't know him, this is the juxtaposition from Diggs to Offset. He's so much better. He's so much this. And so that, I think, opened up a lot of, feedback once you found out that he out here pretty much doing the same thing.
Yeah, it definitely opened up the floodgates of, speculation.
Yeah, so I think that's one of the big parts that we got to acknowledge. If, again, I'm a football fan, I didn't know what Diggs was doing. But now that, people, if you never heard of him, you just know that's Cardi's boyfriend. Now you hearing all this, you like, bro, okay, you just left one bad situation for another bad situation. So I think a lot of people focusing on that, and I think a lot of people focusing that they don't like Cardi for whatever reason. They don't like Cardi. The internet age, we like to kick people when they down, but they don't like Cardi, and so this is it's almost a gotcha moment. And so I think a lot of people jumping on that. But I think those are two of the biggest factors. And then lastly, you got the traditional Christian marriage and the religious idea of marriage, and like she had a kid while she was still married. So I think those are three biggest factors that I'm looking at that has made this a hot topic.
Most definitely. The religious people are going to always hoot a horn. They're going to always blow a horn on at everything. But I guess me personally, like I said, I love Cardi, and like I don't have to live my life in the limelight. It's really hard. Who's to say that she, I believe I saw something recently that said that there are people that are really good at the honeymoon stage. They really know how to make you feel special, really know how to make you, swoon. They're great at the beginning, but they're maybe not good follow through. Who's not to say that Diggs is kind of like that? He's a good honeymooner. So maybe she did think she was with a different type of person. Maybe she was blinded by the lights and didn't see the red flags that have now surfaced, so to speak. I'm trying to give her grace, but, at the same time, I'm still like, damn, sis.
Well,
Because I love her, so I want better for her. But, like, I was still like, dang, I still wipe my brow a little bit behind it, but I get it.
so let's walk it through one by one. Let's start with the whole religious part of it. And again, we'll give our background over time, and we'll have time for that. But say what you want. So the whole idea that no matter if it's Cardi or Joanna down the street, if you are married, you should not be having a kid with somebody else, even though you are separated and y'all clearly done. So what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, for most religions, no matter what your status is, you've separated, happily, kind of in and out. It's not allowed, So I don't think, according to any of the main faiths, Abrahamic faiths, they're gonna, be side-eyeing the situation because, yeah, this is even worse to them than out of wedlock because, you have made a covenant with somebody and then the both of you have, open-endedly, gone against that. So I know that they are like up. I know their pants are up their backs about the situation.
So I feel like me personally, I'm not super religious, spiritual, I guess is the word people use, but in general, the way I think, and I'm very analytical, like just kind of matter of fact, I feel like that label, and I'm one of those guys that like talk about marriage and relationships as labels. I feel like that label doesn't change reality. So if you are married by paper, by whatever legal stance, but in effect you've been estranged or separated, or y'all don't have a relationship, then I don't really about it, especially if it's two-sided. Like if it's one-sided, that's different. Like if Offset really thought they was out here married and she was out here like the marriage is dead, I'm doing my own thing, that's one thing. But they both were very much understanding like this thing is done, you doing your thing, I'm doing my thing.
Right. And can we acknowledge the fact that this is like a legend for the Black community? How many of us have aunts and uncles that have we know are married on paper and have been separated for 25 years. It is
Absolutely.
something that we do culturally. I don't know why, but we love to stay married on paper and then just go our separate ways. And you don't find out until Unc passed, and now you at the military cemetery and she still get a plot, and his new girlfriend don't get no plot next to him because he's still legally married to an auntie that he ain't seen in the last 40 years. So I think that, people, especially when it comes to religion and stuff like that, especially when it just comes culturally, really in our communities, how many of us can name 15 to 20 couples in our family that only have kids between two people, so it's one of those, point a finger, force pointing back at you type of situation. And I feel like no one ever likes to give that much grace. Everybody's got their comments and, side eyeing and looking down upon. But how many of y'all got kids with the same person? How many of y'all stuck it through? And as soon as you start to, get people to look in the mirror, all of a sudden is, well, I was, with bad people and they were, I didn't want to stay with them and I just had a couple of bad. Okay, so if you can have a couple of bad situations, if you could end up with a couple of partners that didn't work out, so what's the difference between Cardi? What's the difference between this Diggs guy?
Yeah, I'm with you, but the people want to know because you are a mother, a married mother, Black woman.
I am a married Black mom. I've been married for 15 years. I've only had a couple of boyfriends before my husband, and he's the sole partner that I've had. So that is what point of view I'm coming from.
So if you, as somebody who already has one kid, already been married, and things, are heading to the end, and this is my best friend, this is my family, so I don't want to think about this either, but we potting. So if it was heading to the end, is that something you could see yourself doing? Because you had a strong reaction to her having a kid with somebody else. So is that something you could see yourself doing during a break or whatever, having a kid with
That's
somebody?
my thing. Those are the key words. Like you said, break, separation. If we have not gone all the way through the paperwork to officially part ways, me personally, no. I don't like muck and I don't like mess. I know how to stand on my own until I can stand together again. That's a no for me. I do not condone people who are separated. This is me personally. Now, I'm not telling people what to do. This is just me. If you do it around me, I'm going to judge you in my own head. I ain't going to tell you because who cares? My opinion doesn't make sure you eat or breathe. But I don't think it's savory to be separated and mingling. I want to be completely done before I do all of that. That's just me personally.
Is that more so for the family, the kids' sake, or is that just like you just following the rules?
That's not even following the rules. That's just too many cooks in the kitchen. I don't want to be having to be trying to establish something new and still have to potentially, could you imagine you living your best life and you in all of a sudden, let's say that partner of yours that you separated from gets into a car accident and now you're the point of contact. You on a date with your boo, you thinking you done moved on, and now you're in a dire situation because you didn't finish and handling your business. I've always been a person, you take care of your business from the past so it don't come haunt you in the future. I believe that heavily. So I don't like unfinished business. Never have, never will. So I think of situations like that. I've witnessed situations like that where you done moved on and you done did your thing, and all of a sudden now you got to go do X, Y, and Z because y'all didn't officially do what y'all was supposed to do. I don't like none of that.
Nah, I feel that. I feel like, yeah, I mean, there's a world where you got to live your day to day, and then there's a world where you got to live in society with the laws, rules, and regulations and everything. So, in terms of society, yeah, it's cleaner cut to make sure all that is taken care of, so you're not adding extra stress and all those things. But I just feel like I see some people talking about Cardi ghetto and this and that, and I'm always gonna have a soft spot, and I'm always gonna have, patience for people that, you grew up in that environment. That is what it is. I mean, that's the environment I grew up in, so it's not to say that
Oh yeah, for sure. We don't do respectability politics. Like I don't do the whole, oh no, this is ghetto, this is this and that and the third.
no,
Mm-mm.
but I'm saying, like, it's not guaranteed you gonna do the same thing your people did, but
Oh yeah, for sure.
you
Yeah.
like, because I'm totally different. But I know people, a lot of people that grew up around that, and that is what they fell into. So I give grace for your environment and how you brought up, but also, like, I mean, what, like, at the core of it, what she's saying is it's happened, whether she knew or not. Like, I'm having that baby, y'all got the babies, or y'all having the babies. We gonna figure it out. We all family now. And
Right. And let's not forget that having Cardi and Offset been parted for a couple of years now.
I
Am
mean,
am I timelining that right?
I mean, officially no, but unofficially they've been on and off. They had things. They had their ups and downs.
Okay.
And so there was whole, it's speculation about, well, you know how it is. And, for the red pill people tuning in, I'm not gonna be the red pill guy. Actually, I'm the most bluest pill guy. But people gonna talk about how he did his thing and she cheated here and there. They try to treat the women different than the men, but they both cheated. They both did their thing on their own, from what I understand. So yeah, it's been on and off, and now they're getting separated. It's getting messy, as it always does. And I'm a big movie fan, so if you haven't saw Marriage Story on Netflix and you want to see how ugly divorce and parental control gets, that's one to watch. But yeah, it's been back and forth. I just feel like, to me, if I was with somebody and I knew it was on the end, and we both decided it was on the end, and we heading towards divorce, and I was messing with somebody. Now, the big difference is, I don't know what the situation was with Cardi, but for me, if I'm messing with you and I don't know you got other kids, and I'm like being safe, but something happens, then I feel exactly like Cardi. We gonna figure it out. We all in this together now. Cause it's about the kids now. It's not about me. I'm not about to get mad about, oh my God, you lied to me. I mean, I'm gonna get mad about it, but I'm not about to focus on, you lied to me. Oh my God, like, I can't believe the condom broke. Like, I'm not about to focus on that. Like, once it's real.
Right. She's just trying to make the best out of, what's going on.
Exactly. And so, but outside of that, if it's anything else, then yeah, I'm kind of with you. Like, do the most you can to make sure it's a clean separation.
I'm with that too. And I know some people been shady in a lot of the comments too, talking about some her tour and how they don't want to be at no tour with no woman bouncing around as 8 months pregnant.
And on the other side of that,
don't do my girl like that.
You got Cardi fans on the other side talking about how hard she hustling being pregnant, and
yeah,
group chat. I've been sharing Cardi stuff. First of all, I mentioned it up top like Brisha did. I love some Cardi. Big Cardi. I'm not a fanatic of anybody, so I'm not crazy.
Same.
But
I just love that she has a good time and she's authentic to herself. There's not been a moment. The girl's been, in celebrity status for probably maybe the last a little under a decade, I would say. And she's been consistent with who she is. That's what I appreciate. Yeah. Even when people try to label her certain ways, her personality never changed. Her silliness and stuff like that. She's very quirky. Never changed. I respect that.
Yeah. So I'm a big Cardi fan. So all that to say, like she doing her thing out here. But you know, as far as this conversation goes, you know, that's kind of our thoughts on it. So we gonna move on to what's the word on the street? What the street's saying, and
Mm-hmm.
I think even today we are recording weeks out, and even if this is released 2 weeks from now, which it won't be, but I think the conversation is going to be the same. Like everybody's talking about the murder of Charlie Kirk from
Or
Turning
the
Point.
conspiracy theorists say the fake murder of Charlie Kirk.
And see,
There's so much
Brisha getting
speculation.
started already. I was just, you know.
I
So,
love a good
so
conspiracy
Char-
theory.
Charlie Kirk got sent home to meet the maker, and that was a right wing conservative conspiracy theorist, advocate, a whatever you want to call it. One of the co-founders of Turning Point, which is a huge young conservative figure in the political space. And for me, so again, we'll drop nuggets every now and then. Me and Abrisha met in college. I'm still working in the college space, so Turning Point, and not just Republican but Democratic as well. They all got youth groups that they are on campus, really trying to activate them and get them involved. But Turning Point is one of the bigger ones, and he was on a college campus doing kind of that popular topic or that popular segment of debating people and all that stuff. He was in Utah and he was assassinated, and that has taken on so much. So I don't want to focus on Kirk. I don't want to focus on how he, was murdered. I want to focus on the reaction. Take me through, Abrisha, what you've seen and what you think about how you feel about the reaction to his murder.
Let me just preface this by saying this person was not in my hemisphere at all. I had never heard of this gentleman until these stories broke. I had no idea. I still feel very clueless about who this man is, and so I guess ignorance is bliss. But obviously, through all the stories and reading and researching, you kind of get to know where he stood with what he spoke on. And I feel like their reactions were just as I suspected. I saw many reactions before they knew before everyone, because there were a lot of people like me who didn't even know who he was. So when people were confused about his political affiliation, both sides were using it. See, this is why the right wingers and this is why the left wingers, and everybody was, spinning their story the way they wanted to do. But what I did know was that while, as my lovely African folks say, Nigeria specifically, the Oyimbo people were cackling and fighting about what side he was on and who he was doing. Black folks were doing just what we always do. We already know this type of climate. We already know this type of people. We already know this type of stuff happened. We were not shocked. We were not outraged. We damn near don't care. We still damn near don't care, but it's almost getting forced down our throats to listen to this story. What I absolutely think is crazy is, I think the most recent crazy thing that I've heard was that in Oklahoma, is wanting college campuses to resurrect statues of this man in memories. I said most statues are of generals, presidents, somebody of status. Have we gotten so far down that we're just putting regular MFers on statues at college campuses? I'm like, the martyr that they're trying to make this guy is what's driving me crazy about the reactions.
So let me clarify for everybody listening. So timeline wise, when you heard this, you heard it before you even know who was killed.
So I heard that this Charlie Kirk was killed, but I didn't even know who he was. I didn't understand the significance of why this was like national news. I had to go figure out who the man was. Like, I no prior context to his person. So me knowing that I wasn't alone in that perspective. So for me knowing that many people didn't even know who he was, to not even 2 weeks later, colleges talking about putting up statues of him, I'm like, okay, that's
Yeah,
like that's where I'm like, all right,
yeah.
something's feeling a little too far, like.
I, no, that's a good comparison. I was with
Because
you.
no matter what side of anything you stand on, if you are a person of significance, both sides of whatever it is going to know you. You know what I'm saying? We all know George Washington and Ulysses S. Grant. And you know what I'm saying? Like, we all know these people, no matter what their political views were. So to just say that we're going to put up these statues of this random guy that most people didn't even know, like, I'm like, y'all going too far. Don't make this
No,
man a martyr. He's not that.
no, I wouldn't question the statue, but that's a good comparison. Yeah. So I'm on the same page. I didn't know who he was by name, but once I heard Turning Point, I knew exactly what that was. And once I saw everything, I knew, again, being on college campuses,
Right.
studying in that area, I knew exactly what these groups were. That the famous meme, changed my mind. Like the white dude sitting at the table changed my mind. Like that's where it all comes from. That became a popular thing. So, but I didn't know him by
I
name
vaguely
either.
remember that. I vaguely remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's a big thing on college campuses. So that's a whole freedom of speech thing. Okay, so both of us in the same boat. We didn't really know who he was. And then we get more information. So before we figure out who the quote unquote what's the opposite word of victim? I'm blanking. The perpetrator. So before we knew who the perpetrator was, we heard a lot of stuff. So once you heard who Charlie Kirk was and everything, what'd you think about the discussion going on about his death before we found I keep saying prospect, that's not the word, suspect. There we go.
Suspect. So whenever these types of situations happen, what you guys will learn about me is I am a information junkie. I am a documentary junkie. So I always go look for the conversations being had by the experts of people who would complete said types of task. So I went on military talk to see what the military folk were talking about. That was the conversation I wanted to hear because they are specialists in, firearms and range and projections and splatter and all of that stuff. I'm like, how do they feel about it? And the overall conversation is that, for them, a lot of it just wasn't adding up, and what type of gun they said was used according to the damage that was done on Charlie Kirk's person. And so that's when I got into, like I said, conspiracies. Well, because there's a lot of people who don't feel like this, there's a lot of speculation over on that side of conversation about whether this act was actually even completed. And then of course I went to go and look and see politically where people were sitting. And of course I literally, like I said, when they were confused about who he was, because like I said, a lot of people didn't know who he was. So I saw news stories that were like, he's a Democrat and this is why X, Y, and Z. And you see all these tweets going out, and are they called tweets still? I don't know. What's Twitter called now?
I
X?
call them tweets. I call them tweets and Twitter. Yeah, because I'm not
I
about
don't
to play.
even know.
I'm not about to
Yeah.
play.
So you see all these tweets come out, you know, going in on him and stuff like that. And the interesting thing about this guy that I've learned, even though he was a right-wing person, is that he still has some pretty strong thoughts on Israel, and he has some strong thoughts on the validity of college education. So he had some enemies on his own side as well, because he wasn't following whatever memo they feel like they should be following as a collective. So I saw some of the arguments between Republicans amongst each other, fighting about his views that were a little skewed according to what they felt like they should be. Of course, you see the Democrats talking about, almost celebrating that it was another right-winger shooting another right-winger. And like, and then, the aha moment, we told you this, you guys that are always, subjecting people to gun violence and mass shootings. And so the conversations have been like all over the place and wild, to just try to gauge. I don't think that anybody in large amounts are sitting in one conversation. I feel like this is a 2020, a 30, 33, 33, 33. Like the conversation, no one's on board in one place here, i.e. why I think the conversation has lasted so long, because people really don't even know where to stand in this conversation.
Yeah, I look, some of y'all might know Boom Bust on YouTube. I get into my out of bounds discussion, so I discussed this, but I'm gonna say pretty definitively for me, what happened was absolutely, it was terrible. That's the word I use. But at the same time, I would also say that it is a symptom of what's happening in our country. The people will speak. The riots and the looting are the language of the oppressed. People will talk eventually, however they have to talk.
But Americans don't even do that right. Let me just go on a small tangent, please. A mini, just a little mini something.
Do your thing. Do your thing.
Americans need to learn how to riot better. Okay, y'all are too nice. Nepal said they didn't like their leader on Monday. By Wednesday, they had set everything on fire. Their politicians had to be helicoptered out of a burning building. They were 4 people hanging off of a rope, holding on for dear life. By Friday, them folks had elected their new leader. By Sunday, they were eating dinner after church. Guys, I don't know. I feel like we need to, as a people, we're going to do the marching and stuff. I'm not saying that we got to be destructive, but if you're going to do it right. That's what a lot of our parents taught us when we were growing. We're going to do it right. And I don't feel like, or I think about like when people are in bad relationships and they complain, and somebody tell them, well, it don't sound like you're tired. And that means that you're not mad enough to make a change, a serious change. You're going to complain about it. You're going to, go back into your toxic relationship. That person's going to do something great to make you feel good about it again. And then, you'll come back a couple months later and complain a little bit more. But until you're tired, you really don't do anything effective to change the outcome. And I just feel like American people are not tired enough. And the little bitty efforts, the small outburst of protesting and here and there, it feels kind of like that, where we're just in this toxic relationship with the government and we just keep holding on, but we're not tired enough to really do anything drastic enough to really make any change. We still honor the rat race. We still go to our 9-to-5s. We still accept a small pay and all these different things. So I don't know. I don't know where I stand with, all of that.
I mean, look, I'm agree and disagree at the same time. Like, everything you said is not wrong, but at the same time, I just feel like, kind of what I was saying, like, that's what's going to happen when you got a society with rules and thoughts, and everybody is supposed to have a voice, but everybody doesn't have a voice. You're going to hear a uprising, and I'm not condoning or condemning anything that happens within that. I think that's the natural cycle. Is in like, yeah, like back in the day, people used to, as our good friend Paul Mooney used to say, they used to chop off heads at the White House. And
Right. And
so,
let me just clarifying statement. I'm not saying that Americans protest needs to be violent. Let me just get that out there because that's not how our society operates. But we could definitely kill them with the dollar. We know that we can. So it's the buying that consistently still happens. It's the spending of money and the different things. We know how our world over here doesn't operate like some other nations. But we could really kill a lot of things if we withheld our dollars and we just actively, like I said, choose to be in the rat race. So I'm not condoning violence. I'm just saying that that's the route Nepal had to take, but it was effective because of what they knew that they needed to do for whatever situation they had. Over here, we could really kill a couple of things by literally just not spending money, and we just choose to still go do what we do. So let me just say that.
yeah, no, I'm with you. And I'm not, again, calling for violence either, but I'm just saying that the people will be hurt. Like, I don't really get into what people should and shouldn't do in terms of desperate situations, whether it's socially or politically, because when you're in a desperate situation, it's hard to tell people how to act. And so that's going on. Oh, I mean,
True.
I'm gonna
True.
wrap it up with this. Like, any takeaways from what we seen with this? And I think for me, the takeaway is what has always been. And if you are aware, if you are quote unquote woke enough, if you are paying attention, the takeaway is like, we're at a point where politicians are going to use the platform to push their agenda. They don't care about you. Like, we talk about martyrs, we talk about people that die for a cause, we talk about all these different things, and I'm sure there's so many examples in movies and stuff that I could pull up, but I can't think of right now. But at the end of the day, they'll use your death as a rallying call to push their agenda.
Absolutely will.
Like, whether it's positive or negative. So at the end of the day, both sides are not really in your interest, but you got to see through, like,
the facade, the mirage.
It's the facade and mirage, but it's people that's taking it too far. Like, the left is, as people say, the left and the liberals, they're going to do some things that try to push their cause, but what's taking it too far? I don't care if it was the left or the right, if it was Trump or Biden. When you use stuff like this to push an agenda with blatant lies, like, you come out here talking about it's a human being, we got to respect the family and the human being, but then you in the same interview say it's the radical left, we got to fight against them. Like, bro, what are you talking? You inciting war, you gaslighting. And so for me, I think at the end of the day, my takeaway is what we always kind of knew, is that the government is going to placate, they're going to lean towards whatever gets them attention. And the internet culture, the capitalist culture, they're becoming one and the same. They don't care about what's right or wrong. They care about what's going to get them attention. And, that part is sad because they're using this to fuel. I mean, again, I'm not going to take the time to talk about the inconsistencies. The people that are for Charlie Kirk and all, freedom of speech and not being politically assassinated, and how they felt differently when it wasn't Charlie. Like, I'm not gonna get into all that, but that's all there. So it, to me, the big takeaway is not that this is a real moment of solidarity. It's just another platform for politicians.
Mm-hmm. And my takeaway is that we should never be delighting in the depth of anybody, no matter what their views and stuff are. I just don't believe that. We should never be delighting in the depth of somebody. And as Terry said, it's just a machine using agendas. Be able to read between the lines and see a little bit further. Do some research and figure out the truth on your end. Hello.
Yeah. And there we go. All right. So we're going to end this off with a little session of air it out. If there's somebody or something you want to air out, that's what we're going to do right now. So, Abrisha, I'm going to let you start off first.
Do I have anything I want to air out? I'm gonna say Tesla and Nissan Altima drivers, go to hell. That's all I'm gonna say.
I need you to say more than that. What's going on? What's going
They're
on?
the worst drivers.
First of all,
they're the worst
Nissan.
drivers.
First of all, I don't have an Ultima, but I'm with Nissan, so I need you to tell me what's going on.
This is a known fact. Everybody know Nissan Altima drivers have an ultimatum to push it to the limits. Because I don't know what they be out there doing, but they are the type of drivers where you speed limit 55, you going 80. These going 102, 115. Why? How is my speed not enough for your speeding? They be out there trying to have death wishes. When I say that most of the accidents that I pass, and just for reference, I live in Minnesota, if that helps everybody, it always involves an Altima or a Tesla. Y'all gotta stop. That's what I'm airing out. Learn how to drive.
All right, we listen. We don't judge. I don't have an Ultima, so I don't know. I'm gonna keep it real general, and I'm sure we'll get more specific over time, but I'm gonna air out people that don't use their turn signals.
Oh, hello.
Hold on, brother.
We can box right now. All y'all line up.
I need to talk to y'all, cause if I'm remembering correct, in Illinois, our driving school,
not the hard S at the end. Please stop.
Our driving school said about 30 feet, something like that. So
something like that.
Use your turn signal, bro. Like it just, there's too many situations where you could cause an issue, man. Use your turn signal early. Let me know. Even I don't care. I don't care if it's 3 turns and you put on your turn signal at the first one, but you turn in at the third one. It lets me know to slow down because you getting ready to turn. I can't stand people that only use their turn signals. I gotta say that. That's a general rule.
Let me get into my who had that intro. Is that 3-6 Mafia? Real smokers, real drinkers. I'm talking about the real drivers, the real rollers. And if you ain't that, get the fuck about.
No.
Listen, for us who like to speed, for us who got ticket money, that be in the left lane, who go a little faster than the rest of y'all, just know that we are calculating where your slow ass is driving, where you at. Do not see us coming up on you and switch lanes. That's the first thing that's going to get you ran over. We have already calculated your placement. Stay your slow driving tail where you at, and before you know it, we will have passed you. That's it. Long story short, I don't like bad drivers.
Oh yeah, Lord. That was a cheat one. That was a cheat one. We gonna take that, but we gonna get more specific. So all right, that is it for this episode of Long Time Good Time.
Hey.
Kicking it off with a bang. I like to thank my partner and my cohort, my co-host, and everything, Brescia. Anything you want to say to people? Where can they follow you on your personals?
Don't follow me. I don't want y'all to see me dancing. Hi. You could follow me. I think my ads are Abe Hyla _Hyla on most of my platforms. Or just catch me over on Long Time Good Time or LTGT podcast on Instagram and YouTube.
Hey, that's nothing to say. You can't catch me nowhere else. We doing these social medias. Actually, I lie. You catch me at Boom Bust. That's where I do my football stuff. If y'all into that. So, other than that, I like thank everybody for listening, and stay tuned to the next episode.
Peace.